A man sits alone in a sterile hospital waiting room, his hands trembling as he checks his phone for the 100th time. The clock on the wall seems frozen, each tick stretching into eternity. Then, 3 identical little girls in matching pink dresses approach him cautiously. The one in the middle leans in and whispers, "Mister, can you pretend you're our father? Just for today?" If that opening grabbed your attention, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories that remind us of the unexpected connections that can change our lives forever. Mark Sullivan never imagined he'd be sitting alone in an oncology waiting room at 38. 6 months ago, his life had been perfectly ordinary. He had a job he tolerated at an accounting firm, a modest apartment where he raised his daughter Lily after his wife's death 5 years ago, and a comfortable routine that kept them both grounded. But then came the unexplained fatigue. The bruises that appeared without cause. The nosebleeds that wouldn't stop. And finally, the preliminary diagnosis that sent ice through his veins, leukemia. Today's test results would confirm whether the treatment was working or if he needed to start preparing Lily for the worst. Mark had sent Lily to school today despite her protests. "I want to be with you, Dad," she'd insisted, her 11-year-old face pinched with worry far beyond her years. But he couldn't bear the thought of her sitting in this cold waiting room, watching him fall apart if the news was bad. So here he sat alone, surrounded by other patients with their support networks, spouses holding hands, adult children accompanying elderly parents, friends chatting quietly to distract from the weight of uncertainty. Mark had never felt more isolated. The triplets appeared like apparitions in his peripheral vision. Identical down to the last freckle, they looked about 7 years old, with copper-colored hair pulled into neat ponytails and matching pink dresses with white cardigans. They moved with the synchronized grace of children who had never known separation. "Mister?" The middle one spoke again when he didn't immediately respond. "Our mom is getting her treatment, and the nurse said we have to have a grown-up with us. Could you pretend to be our dad? Just until she's done?" Mark blinked, momentarily pulled from his spiral of anxiety. "Where is your actual father?" he asked, looking around the waiting room. "The one on the left, or was it the right?" "They kept shifting positions," answered matter-of-factly. "He left when Mom got sick. Said he couldn't handle it." Something hardened in Mark's chest. "I see," he said, making room on the bench beside him. "Well, I suppose I could keep an eye on you until your mom is finished." "I'm Abby," said the one who'd spoken first. "That's Emma," she pointed to her left, "and that's Olivia, to her right." "I'm Mark," he replied, then added awkwardly, I guess I'm Dad for now." The girls giggled, and something about the sound loosened the knot in his chest slightly. "Why are you here?" Emma asked, climbing onto the bench beside him. "Emma." Abby scolded. "Mom says we're not supposed to ask people that in the hospital." "It's okay," Mark said. "I'm waiting for some test results." "Our mom gets test results too," Olivia said, settling on his other side. "Sometimes they make her cry, but sometimes they make her smile really big." "That's exactly how it is," Mark agreed, surprised by the child's perfect summation of the cancer patient experience. Abby remained standing, studying him with an intensity that made him slightly uncomfortable. "You look scared," she finally declared. "When I'm scared, Mom says to think about 3 good things that happened today." Mark couldn't help but smile. "That's good advice. Let me think." He paused, realizing with some surprise that he hadn't thought about anything positive in weeks. "I had a really good cup of coffee this morning. And my daughter made her own lunch without me asking. And..." He looked at the 3 expectant faces. "I met 3 very interesting young ladies." The girls beamed at him, and Abby finally sat down, apparently satisfied with his answer. "What's your daughter's name?" Emma asked. "Lily. She's 11. "That's a pretty name," Olivia said. "Does she like to play dolls?" "She used to," Mark said. "Now she's more into science and books." Our mom is a scientist, Abby said proudly. She studies stars. An astrophysicist? Mark asked, impressed. Yeah, that word, Emma nodded. But she had to stop working when she got sick. Mark felt a pang of recognition. He'd taken a leave of absence from his own job when the treatments became too debilitating. That must be hard for her. She says the stars will still be there when she gets better, Olivia said with complete confidence. Mark envied that certainty. He'd been struggling to maintain any optimism about his own prognosis, especially for Lily's sake. The thought of leaving her alone in the world kept him awake at night. Sullivan? A nurse appeared at the doorway, clipboard in hand. Mark's heart lurched. That's me, he said, standing up. He looked down at the triplets. I have to go now. Can we come? Abby asked. We'll be quiet. I don't think, Mark began, but Emma interrupted. Please. We don't want you to be alone. Nobody should get test results alone. Mark hesitated, touched by their concern but aware it wasn't appropriate. Your mom wouldn't want you wandering off. Our mom is in treatment for another hour, Olivia said. The nurse knows we're out here. As if summoned, the nurse approached them. Are these your daughters, Mr. Sullivan? Before Mark could correct her, Abby spoke up. We're keeping him company until our mom is done with her treatment. The nurse smiled knowingly. That's very kind of you girls. Mr. Sullivan, Dr. Patel would like to discuss your results. These young ladies can come along if that's all right with you. We can wait for their mother afterward. Mark looked at the three hopeful faces and found himself nodding. If it's allowed, yes. The girls fell into step beside him as they followed the nurse down the corridor. Emma slipped her small hand into his, and after a moment's surprise, he gently squeezed it. Dr. Patel was waiting in a small consultation room, his expression unreadable as they entered. He raised an eyebrow at the three little girls but didn't comment. Mr. Sullivan, he began, I have your latest test results. Mark felt his chest tighten. Emma's hand squeezed his harder. The treatment is working, Dr. Patel said, a smile breaking through his professional demeanor. Your blood counts are improving significantly, and the cancer cells are responding to the therapy better than we anticipated. Mark stared at him, the words not fully registering. So I'm going to be okay? We still have a long road ahead, Dr. Patel cautioned, but this is very encouraging. If you continue to respond this well, your prognosis is excellent. A sob escaped Mark before he could stop it. He covered his mouth with his free hand, embarrassed to break down in front of the children, but unable to contain the flood of relief. That's good news. Abby declared, patting his arm. That means you can keep being Lily's dad for a long, long time. Mark nodded, unable to speak. The simple truth of the child's statement hit him with full force. He could keep being Lily's dad. He wouldn't have to leave her alone. Our mom got good news last time too, Olivia said proudly. She cried just like you. Dr. Patel smiled at the girls. It's very emotional when the treatment works, he agreed. Now, Mr. Sullivan, we'll need to schedule your next round of therapy, but I think we can reduce some of the medications given how well you're responding. They discussed the details of his treatment plan, the girls sitting quietly but attentively throughout. When they finished, Dr. Patel shook Mark's hand. Congratulations again. This is the outcome we were hoping for. As they left the consultation room, Mark felt lighter than he had in months. The girls chattered excitedly beside him, clearly pleased to have been part of good news. We should go back to the waiting room, Mark said. Your mom will be worried if she finishes and you're not there. They returned to find a woman in a headscarf sitting anxiously in the waiting area. When she spotted the girls, her face flooded with relief. There you are. I was about to call security. Despite her obvious fatigue, her voice was warm and musical. Mom! The triplets rushed to her. We were helping our new friend get his test results. The woman looked up at Mark apologetically. I'm so sorry if they bothered you. The nurses usually keep an eye on them during my treatments. They weren't a bother at all, Mark assured her. In fact, they were exactly what I needed today. He extended his hand. I'm Mark Sullivan. Claire Bennett, she replied, shaking his hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong for someone undergoing cancer treatment. I hope my daughters weren't too intrusive. They tend to adopt people they think need help. They were right, Mark admitted. I did need help. I got good news today, and having them there made it even better. Claire's face softened. I'm glad to hear that. We've had our share of both good and bad news in this place. Mom's cancer is sleeping now, Emma informed Mark solemnly. But the doctor says it might wake up, so we have to keep checking. Emma. Claire looked mortified. I'm sorry, she repeats everything she hears. It's okay, Mark said. My diagnosis is leukemia. Today I found out the treatment is working. That's wonderful, Claire said sincerely. Truly. There was a moment of understanding between them, the unique bond of those who have faced their mortality and glimpsed the possibility of reprieve. Dad! A voice called from across the waiting room. Lily was rushing toward him, her backpack bouncing against her back, followed by Mark's sister who looked apologetic. She insisted on coming after school, his sister explained. I couldn't say no. Mark knelt down to catch his daughter in a fierce hug. It's okay. I have good news, Lily pad. The medicine is working. Lily's arms tightened around his neck. Really? You're going to be okay? That's what the doctor says, Mark confirmed, his voice thick with emotion. When they separated, Lily noticed the triplets watching with interest. Who are they? She asked. These are my friends, Mark said. Abby, Emma, and Olivia. They kept me company while I waited for my results. You have identical triplet friends? Lily looked impressed. We're not really his friends, Abby clarified. We just pretended he was our dad for a while because he looked sad. Lily considered this. That was nice of you. My dad does look sad a lot lately. Not anymore, Mark promised, standing up with his arm around Lily's shoulders. Claire, would you and the girls like to join us for ice cream? I think this calls for a celebration. Claire hesitated. That's very kind, but I'm usually pretty wiped out after treatment. Another time, then, Mark suggested. Maybe we could exchange numbers. The girls seem to get along, and it might be nice to have someone who understands. Claire smiled, a genuine smile that transformed her tired face. I'd like that. As they exchanged contact information, Mark felt something he hadn't experienced in months, hope. Not just for his recovery, but for the possibility of new connections, new friendships forged in the crucible of shared experience. Dad, can we get chocolate ice cream? Lily asked, tugging at his sleeve. Chocolate is our favorite too, the triplets chorused. Definitely chocolate, Mark agreed, waving goodbye to Claire and her daughters with a promise to call soon. As they walked out of the hospital into the sunlight, Mark realized that the three little girls who had approached him in his darkest moment had given him something beyond temporary comfort. They had reminded him that even in the most isolating circumstances, human connection could appear in unexpected forms. 6 months later, Mark's cancer was in remission. Lily had 3 new friends who were practically sisters, and Mark had found in Claire a companion who understood the peculiar gratitude of those granted a second chance at life. Sometimes, when they all gathered for dinner or outings to the park, Mark would catch Claire's eye across the table and they would share a silent acknowledgement of how strange and beautiful it was that their paths had crossed, all because 3 little girls had whispered, "Pretend you're our father." In the waiting rooms of life, sometimes the people we least expect become the family we most need.